When I was 22, I stood on my best friend's porch holding a bouquet of sunflowers, finally ready to tell her how I felt. But she opened the door wearing my older brother's sweatshirt. She just smiled and said, "Oh, it's you." 6 months later, after I'd cut them both out of my life, I got an emergency call from a hospital. She'd been in an accident, and she was asking for me. Jules had been my best friend for half my life. She was the kind of girl who'd bring snacks to class but always forget a pencil. We met in 7th grade when she tripped over my backpack and landed hard on the pavement. I helped her up. She called me an idiot for leaving my bag in the middle of the hallway and then asked if I wanted to skip gym with her. That was it. We became inseparable. Late-night FaceTimes that bled into the early morning. Summer movie marathons where we'd debate the plot holes for hours. Sitting on her roof, talking about life like we were the only two people on Earth. I knew the way she crinkled her nose when she was trying not to laugh, the exact tone of her voice when she was exhausted, and that she always ordered her lattes with caramel and a triple shot of whipped cream. Over the years, we both dated other people, but none of it ever stuck. It always felt like no one got us the way we got each other. I'd been in love with her since I was 13, but I was a classic coward. I was too terrified of destroying what we had. Losing her as a friend would be 1,000 times worse than just loving her silently from the sidelines. She even once joked that if we were both single at 30, we'd get married. I laughed, but I never forgot it. My older brother Eli knew how I felt. I'd told him a million times over the years, usually late at night over beers. He always acted like it was dumb. "Marcus, if you haven't boned by now, she's not interested," he'd say with a shrug. "You're confusing friendship with love. She just sees you as a brother, man. Don't make it weird." But I knew I wasn't confusing anything. I knew how she looked at me when I made her laugh so hard she couldn't breathe. I knew how she'd call me first whenever her life fell apart. This was more. I was just waiting for the right moment. When Jules finally broke up with her long-term boyfriend, a guy I could never stand, I told Eli I was going to do it. I was finally going to tell her. "I'm doing it," I told him one night on the back porch. "I'm just gonna buy flowers, go over there, and lay it all out." "Seriously?" He raised an eyebrow, taking a pull from his beer. "You sure you're ready for that?" "What if she says no?" "It'll ruin everything." "I have to try," I said. "I can't not anymore." He gave me this weird look I couldn't place at the time. Then he clapped me on the back. "Well, good luck, little brother. Go for it, shoot your shot." So I did. 2 days later, I picked up sunflowers because they were her favorite. She said they were obnoxiously happy. I even put on my best and only suit, the one I bought for our cousin's wedding. I felt like an idiot, but I wanted it to be special. I practiced what I was going to say the whole drive over. "Jules, we've been friends forever, and you're the most important person in my life." No, too cliché. "Jules, I've been in love with you since you called me an idiot in 7th grade. Better, but still not right. When I turned onto her street, my heart was hammering against my ribs. I parked, and that's when I saw Eli's car in her driveway. At first, I thought maybe he just stopped by. Maybe he was picking something up for me or our parents. No big deal, I waited. I sat in my car with the stupid flowers in my lap for almost 10 minutes, gathering the courage to get out. I even texted her at, "Hey, you home?" No reply, and then her porch light came on. The door opened and she stepped outside. Barefoot, hair still damp like she had just showered. She was wearing a hoodie that was way too big for her. It was Eli's, his favorite Attack on Titan hoodie, the one I had ironically special ordered for him last Christmas. She bent down and picked up a takeout bag from the porch step. Then she laughed. That laugh I had waited years to hear again, just for me. Only now it was aimed back inside like someone was waiting for her. I didn't get out. I didn't knock. I didn't say a single word. I just quietly opened my car door, laid the sunflowers on her bottom step like a total coward, got back in, and drove away. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the wheel. An hour later, as I was sitting in the dark in my apartment staring at a wall, my phone buzzed. It was from her. That was sweet. He loved them. She didn't say Eli's name. She didn't have to. My world just caved in. The flowers I bought for her, she thought were for him. And he was there, with her, while I was practicing speeches in my car. I didn't reply. I didn't sleep that night, or the one after. When I finally saw Eli again, it was at a family dinner a few days later. I pulled him aside. "Are you seeing her?" I asked, straight up. He shrugged like it was no big deal. "Yeah, We've hung out a couple of times. I told you I was... Dude, you never told her how you felt. What did you expect? He said it so casually, like none of it mattered. I was going to. That night, I was there. He laughed. A real laugh. Seriously? Well, guess you were too slow. She can't wait forever for you to grow a pair. The worst part? I still tried to be normal with her. I couldn't just cut her out. They started dating officially, and I was still the guy who helped her fix her resume and drove her to the DMV when her car broke down. I was still the one who listened when she needed to vent about work. I convinced myself it was fine, that maybe I just wasn't supposed to have her. I buried the feelings down so deep I almost believed they were gone. Then, a couple of months later, we had a group dinner at Jules' apartment. I came with a bottle of her favorite wine. She sat next to Eli, leaning into him like it was the most natural thing in the world. It was a physical pain watching them. Halfway through, Eli went to the bathroom. She looked at me and smiled. That same smile that used to be just for me. You're the only person who really understands me. I need you to help me write a speech for Eli's birthday. I just smiled back, but something inside me cracked. Sure, Jules, no problem. Later that night, after everyone else had left, I stayed to help her clean up, because Eli, of course, was tired and left early. I was clearing a stack of junk mail from her kitchen counter, and a note fell out. It was addressed to me. She didn't notice me pick it up. I opened it. Her handwriting, I think I've been in love with you all along. I'm just scared. I don't want to lose what we have. At the bottom was the date. The day before I showed up with the sunflowers, I stared at it for 10 minutes. I don't even remember breathing. She loved me. She loved me, and Eli knew. He must have seen her fear and used it. He must have told her I'd never make a move. He poisoned the well. He stole her from me. I carefully folded the note and put it back in the pile of junk. I didn't say a word. I went home. I opened my phone. I looked at her name. I looked at his name, and I blocked them both. I was done. That was 6 months ago. 6 months of silence. The first week was the hardest. It felt like I had a phantom limb. I'd pick up my phone to text her a funny screenshot or call her on my drive home from work, only to remember. The empty space she left was deafening. She wasn't just a person in my life. She was the connective tissue. Eli was easier to cut out. The anger I felt toward him was so pure and hot it burned away any sense of loss. He wasn't just my brother. He was my rival, and he'd finally won a prize I didn't even know we were competing for, using a tactic so dirty it was unforgivable. I did the only thing I could think of to do. I moved. I couldn't stay in my old apartment. It was too full of her. That was the couch where we watched Stranger Things for 12 hours straight. That was the kitchen where I tried to teach her how to cook, and she set a dish towel on fire. That was the balcony where we'd sat and planned our futures. I broke my lease, paid the penalty, and found a new place on the other side of town. A small, clean one-bedroom with sterile white walls and no memories. I threw myself into my work. As a graphic designer at a small marketing firm, it was easy to get lost. I took on the projects no one else wanted. Tedious branding guides, boring corporate infographics. I worked late. I worked weekends. My boss, Willie, was thrilled. "You're a machine, Marcus," he said, dropping another file on my desk. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." I was building a new life, brick by painful brick. The Jules and Eli problem became a box I taped shut and shoved into the darkest corner of my mind. The family, of course, noticed. "You're not coming to Sunday dinner?" My mom asked on the phone, her voice laced with that familiar guilt. This was about 3 months in. "Can't, Mom. Willie has me on a huge project." A lie. That's the 3rd week in a row. "Eli was here last week. He said you're not answering his texts. Is everything okay between you two?" My grip on the phone tightened. "Yeah, Mom, just guy stuff. We'll sort it out. I gotta go. My other line is ringing." Another lie. She sighed, the sound full of disappointment, but she let it go. For now, I started hanging out with a guy from work, Ben. He was a good distraction. All he cared about was fantasy football and finding the best happy hour. We went to bars. I tried to talk to other women, but I found myself comparing every laugh, every smile to Jules. It was hopeless. "Dude, you've got to get over whoever she was," Ben said one night, sliding a beer toward me. "You've been in a funk for 6 months. I'm trying," I said. And I was doing better. I really was. I had a new apartment, a new routine. I had gone a full week without thinking about either of them. I was finally maybe starting to heal. That was the thought I had last night. I was at home sketching in my notepad a new client's logo design. The apartment was quiet. I felt a rare moment of actual peace. Then my phone buzzed on the coffee table, an unknown number. I stared at it. I didn't know anyone who'd text me from a new number. I opened it. I miss you. I think about you every day. My blood went cold. It couldn't be. After 6 months of nothing, I didn't respond. I shut the phone off and threw it on the couch. It's a wrong number. It's spam. It's not her, but it was her. I knew it the same way I knew my own name. I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, every memory I'd buried clawing its way back to the surface. The note, the hoodie, Eli's laugh. The next morning, I woke up to 3 more texts from the same number. Please, Marcus. I need to talk to you. I'm so sorry. Can we just talk? I still didn't respond. I went to work. I couldn't focus. Every line I drew on my tablet looked wrong. Every color was off. You look like you saw a ghost, Willie said, leaning on my desk. Didn't sleep well, I mumbled. He didn't push it. After work, I went to the gym to try and sweat out the anxiety. I put on my headphones, cranked the music, and just started lifting. I was halfway through my workout, angry, unfocused, and exhausted, when I spotted him across the room. Eli. We hadn't spoken or seen each other since I blocked him. He saw me too. For a second, we just stared at each other over a rack of dumbbells. Then he started walking over. I almost left right then. Hey, he said. He had the nerve to say it like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't ripped my life apart. I just nodded and kept lifting, the metal bar clanking. He stood there awkwardly for a minute, shifting his weight. Jules and I broke up, he finally said, I heard. I didn't look at him. She's been asking about you. Says you won't answer her texts. I put the weights down with a loud bang that made a few people look over. I grabbed my towel, wiping the sweat from my face. Not my problem. I tried to walk away, but he grabbed my arm. Look, man, I know I messed up, but she really misses you. I yanked my arm out of his grasp. The rage I'd been suppressing for 6 months boiled over. Messed up? You call that messing up? You knew, Eli. You knew exactly what I was going to do that night. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. You lied to her. I was breathing hard, my voice low and shaking. You told her I'd never make a move, didn't you? You played on her fears because you knew. You knew she felt the same way. His face told me everything. He couldn't even meet my eyes. You're my brother, I said, the word tasting like ash. You both made your choice. Stay away from me. Both of you. I walked out without looking back. When I got to my car, I was shaking. I sat there for a minute, just trying to breathe. I checked my phone. 5 more texts from Jules. Eli told me he saw you. Please, Marcus. He's not who you think. I can explain everything. It was a mistake. I was scared. Please, I just need to see you. I still didn't reply. What was there to say? It confirmed what I already suspected. She was only crawling back because Eli was out of the picture. I was the backup plan. That night, I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about that note. I think I've been in love with you all along. How could she write that and then days later be with him? None of it made sense. Around midnight, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. My new apartment. No one ever just dropped by. My heart hammered in my chest. I crept to the door, my hands slick with sweat. I looked through the peephole, and my world stopped. It was Jules, standing in the dimly lit hallway, hugging herself against the cold. Her hair was a mess, and even through the distorted lens, I could see her face was tear-stained. She looked like she'd been crying for days. She raised a trembling hand and knocked again, a soft, hesitant rap that sounded like a plea. I stood frozen behind the door for a full minute, my heart a trapped bird against my ribs. Go away, just turn around and go away. My mind was screaming it, but my feet didn't move. She knocked again, softer this time. Marcus, please. I know you're in there. I can see your light. Damn. I unlatched the deadbolt, the sound echoing loudly in the silent apartment. I pulled the door open just a few inches, leaving the security chain on. It was a cowardly move, but I felt exposed, raw. She stood there, hugging herself, looking smaller than I remembered. The hallway light cast long shadows under her eyes, which were red and puffy. What are you doing here, Jules? My voice came out rougher than I intended, a rusty sound from 6 months of disuse. She looked up at me, and those eyes, the ones that had always been my greatest weakness, were brimming with fresh tears. You wouldn't answer my texts. I didn't know what else to do. I needed to see you. It's midnight, Jules. I know. I'm sorry. I really, really need to talk to you, please. Her voice cracked on the last word, and a tear finally escaped, tracing a path down her cheek. Every instinct screamed at me to shut the door, to lock it, to go back to the numb, quiet life I had built. But this was Jules. Even after everything, a part of me was still wired to respond when she was hurting. I sighed, a long, ragged breath, and undid the chain. The metal links rattled. I stepped back. Fine, you've got 5 minutes. She slipped inside, her eyes darting around my apartment. It was the first time she'd ever been here. My new sterile life. A gray couch, a black coffee table, a single framed print of a geometric design on the wall. No photos, no clutter. No us. Nice place, she said, her voice barely a whisper. It was an awkward attempt at small talk. I didn't respond. I just stood there with my arms crossed, a human wall between her and the rest of my apartment. Your 5 minutes are ticking. She sat down on the edge of my couch without being invited. Classic Jules, always making herself at home, even where she wasn't welcome. I stayed standing. Eli and I broke up, she said finally, looking at her hands, which were twisted together in her lap. I know. He told me at the gym. He came here? She asked, looking up surprised. He found me. What do you want, Jules? I made a mistake, she whispered, the words rushing out. A huge, stupid, terrible mistake. I'd imagined this moment so many times. Her coming back, apologizing, saying she was wrong. In my fantasies, I was cool, detached, maybe even witty. In reality, I felt nothing but a dull, heavy ache. Or maybe not nothing. Numb. Did you mean it? I asked. She looked confused. Mean what? The note. The one I found in your junk mail. The one you wrote the day before you got with him. Did you mean it? Her eyes widened in genuine shock. You found that? I just nodded, my jaw tightening at the memory. Yes, she breathed. Yes, I meant it. I meant every word. I was going to give it to you that night. I was going to tell you everything. And what? I finally sat down, but not on the couch with her. I took the armchair across the room, keeping the coffee table between us like a barrier. What happened? She took a shaky breath. Eli showed up. Before you, I told him I was a mess, that I was going to tell you how I felt, and I was terrified. And what did he say? I knew the answer, but I needed to hear it from her. Her gaze dropped back to her lap. He told me how you felt about me. Said you'd been in love with me for years, but that you were too scared to ever say anything. He told me you'd probably never make a move, that you were happy with things just the way they were. The air in my lungs turned to stone. He had taken my own confession, my own fear, and weaponized it against me, and I got scared, she continued, her voice trembling. I thought about what would happen if we tried. And it didn't work out. I'd lose you. You're my best friend, Marcus. I'd lose everything. So when he kissed me, I don't know. It seemed safer, I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was a harsh, bitter sound that startled both of us. Safer? You chose my brother, the one person on earth who knew how I felt, because it was safer? She winced as if I'd physically struck her. I know how it sounds. Do you? I leaned forward, my hands gripping the armrests. Because it sounds like you knew how I felt. Knew how you felt. And you still chose him over me. In the most painful way possible. I know I messed up, she said, her voice rising. I know. But I'm here now. Why now, Jules? I stood up and started pacing. The floorboards of my cheap new apartment creaked beneath my feet. Why? Because it didn't work out? Because he dumped you and now you're lonely? What am I, Marcus, the consolation prize? No! She shot up from the couch, her fists clenched. That's not it. I tried to call you. I texted, you blocked me. What was I supposed to do? I don't know, Jules. Maybe not betray me in the first place. I was yelling now, the dam of 6 months of rage finally breaking. Do you have any idea what that did to me? Do you have any concept of how it felt to see you in his sweatshirt? To get that text about the flowers? To know that my own brother and my best friend, I couldn't finish. I turned away, running my hands through my hair, tugging at the roots. I missed you every single day, she said, her voice cracking. Eli, he wasn't you. It was awful. We fought all the time. He's not like you. That's it? You missed me? The bitterness was back, sharp as acid. She took a step toward me, her familiar vanilla perfume hitting me. I flinched and took a step back. I made a mistake, Marcus, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face now. People make mistakes. I was confused. I was scared. Can we get coffee tomorrow, please? Just talk, properly, not like this. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her to get out. I wanted to throw her out and lock the door and never see her or Eli again. But as I really looked at her, I didn't see the betrayer. I saw Jules. My Jules, who was crying in my living room at midnight, looking broken. The part of me that had loved her since we were 13, sitting next to each other in biology class, couldn't do it. My resolve crumbled. Fine, I said, the word feeling heavy on my tongue. Coffee, that's it. And then you need to go. She smiled through her tears, a weak, watery glimmer of hope. Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. After she left, I locked the deadbolt and refastened the chain. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door. My apartment felt too hot and too cold all at once. I kept replaying everything. The note, the hoodie, Eli's car. He told me you'd probably never make a move. By morning, I was exhausted and even more confused. I had dark circles under my eyes. I almost texted her to cancel. I typed it out 3 times. Can't make it. Something came up. Let's not. But I didn't send any of them. Something was pulling me toward this meeting, despite my better judgment. I had to know the whole truth. We met at our old spot, a little cafe called The Grind, halfway between her old apartment and my old one. It had chipped blue mugs, mismatched wooden chairs, and a barista who always remembered our exact complicated orders. It was a place I hadn't dared to go near in 6 months. I got there first and grabbed a table in the back, away from the windows, away from the happy morning commuters. I needed a defensible position. She showed up 10 minutes late, which, for her, was practically early. She always ran on what our friend group lovingly called Jules Standard Time. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. She looked better than last night. Less puffy-eyed, more put together. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, and she was wearing a simple gray sweater. She looked like the Jules I remembered, and that almost hurt more. Hey. I'd already ordered my usual black coffee, no room for cream. The waitress came over, and Jules ordered her complicated latte, caramel, whipped cream, an extra shot, and cinnamon on top. Some things never changed. We sat in an awkward, heavy silence until her drink arrived. This had never happened before. In 13 years, we had never run out of things to say. The cafe buzzed around us, other people's normal conversations filling the void we couldn't seem to bridge. So, she finally said, fidgeting with a napkin, tearing it into tiny strips. How have you been? Your new place is nice. Sterile, but nice. I almost laughed. How have I been? After my best friend and my brother got together behind my back, effectively nuking my entire life. Just great, Jules. Living the dream. The sarcasm dripped from my voice, sharper than I intended. She flinched, her shoulders hunching. Okay, I deserve that. Yeah, you do. I took a sip of my coffee. It was bitter, matching my mood perfectly. Why are we really here, Jules? Your 5-minute tear-stained apology last night was one thing. This is something else. What do you want? She looked down at her drink, swirling the mountain of whipped cream with a straw. I told you. I miss you. I made a mistake. Which one? I leaned forward, my voice low. The mistake with Eli or the mistake with me? She reached across the table, her fingers instinctively moving toward my hand, but I pulled it back and wrapped it around my mug. Her hand hovered in the empty space for a beat before retreating. Both, she said, her voice small. Eli and I, it was never right. It was awful. We fought all the time. He's not like me, I finished for her, the words tasting like poison. No, he's not, she said, meeting my gaze. Her eyes were desperate. So what? I'm the backup plan? Now that things didn't work out with him, you come running back to good old reliable Marcus? No, it's not like that. She looked genuinely hurt by the accusation, her eyes wide. I've been thinking about you this whole time. About us, about what could have been. About that note, while you were with my brother? The words hung in the air between us, heavy and accusatory. She didn't have an answer for that. She just looked down, defeated. We sat in silence again. I watched her add even more sugar to her already sweet drink. Some things never changed, like her sweet tooth that defied all logic. Do you and Eli still talk? She finally asked, her voice barely audible. I frowned, my coffee cup pausing halfway to my mouth. What? I was just wondering if you and Eli still talk. After everything. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was suddenly intensely interested in the foam on her latte. Something felt off. The question was calculated. Loaded. I blocked him too, remember? The same night I blocked you. I haven't spoken a single word to him since I saw him at the gym. She nodded, but too quickly. Right, of course. I need closure, with both of you. And there it was. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about me. This was a reconnaissance mission. You don't miss me, Jules, I said, the numbness from last night evaporating, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. You miss being chosen. You miss the attention. Her eyes widened, a flash of panic in them. What? No, that's not... You're here because Eli dumped you, I said, my voice flat as I pieced it together. And now you're doing damage control. You're trying to make sure you don't lose me too. You're securing your safety net. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Several people looked over. I didn't care. You don't want me, Jules. You just don't want to be alone. That's not fair. She was crying again, the tears welling up instantly. Her mascara was already starting to smudge. I do miss you. I do care about you. Maybe you do, I said, dropping a $10 bill on the table for my coffee. But not in the way I need you to. Not in the way that matters. Marcus, wait. Goodbye, Jules. I walked out of the cafe without looking back. The little bell on the door chimed behind me. This time she was the one left sitting at the table, watching the door close. The irony wasn't lost on me. I drove around for hours after that. The radio turned off, just the sound of the engine and the tires on the pavement. I ended up at the beach, just sitting in my car, watching the gray waves crash against the shore. The rhythmic motion was hypnotic, soothing the burning anger in my chest. My phone kept buzzing. Text after text from Jules. That's not true. How can you say that? Please, Marcus, just listen to me. You're wrong. You're so wrong, I didn't read them. I just watched the notifications pop up on my locked screen and disappear. I was done. For real this time. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as it began to dip toward the horizon. When I finally got home, I found him sitting on my doorstep, hunched over, looking at his phone. Eli. Great, just what I needed. A betrayal sandwich. He looked up as my car pulled in, his expression a strange mixture of guilt and determination. What do you want, Eli? I asked, not bothering to hide the exhaustion and annoyance in my voice as I slammed my car door. He stood up, brushing off his jeans. Jules called me. She was pretty upset, and? I pushed past him to unlock my door. The key stuck slightly as it always did. And I wanted to make sure you're okay, he said, following me inside without an invitation. Apparently, boundary issues ran in the family. My apartment still held traces of her visit. The water glass on the coffee table. The cushions on the couch slightly indented where she had sat. Look, man, I know I messed up, he said, hovering awkwardly near the doorway. But Jules and we're over. For good. I turned to face him, leaning against my kitchen counter. Why are you telling me this? Because she loves you, man. She always has. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit we both shared. I shook my head, the bitter laugh bubbling up again. Right, she loves the idea of me. The safety net. The backup plan. Eli sighed, his shoulders slumping. That's not true. She was a complete mess after you blocked her. I mean, a wreck. She talked about you constantly. While she was dating you? I raised an eyebrow. That must have been fun. He had the decency to look embarrassed, his cheeks flushing. It wasn't great, honestly. That's the real reason we broke up. I couldn't compete. She was always looking for you in me. She couldn't get over you. I didn't know what to believe anymore. My head was spinning with conflicting emotions, with their tangled, messy narratives. Just go, Eli, I'm tired. And I was. Bone-deep exhausted from the emotional whiplash of the past 48 hours. She's at Angela's place, he said as he headed for the door, his hand on the knob. If you change your mind. Angela was Jules's old college roommate. They were still close. I didn't respond. I just closed the door behind him and locked it. I collapsed on my couch in the exact spot where Jules had sat the night before and stared at the ceiling until it got dark. The next day was Saturday. I woke up to more texts from Jules and now a few from Eli too. I ignored them all. I went for a run, pushing myself harder than usual, my feet pounding the pavement, trying to outrun my own thoughts. When I got back, sweaty and breathless, there was a package on my doorstep. No return address. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a photo album. Our photo album. The one Jules and I had started in high school, adding stupid pictures and inside jokes every year. I thought she had it. I flipped through it slowly, sitting on my front steps. There we were at prom, both with different dates, but somehow still in most of each other's pictures. There we were at graduation making stupid faces. College road trips in my old '98 Corolla. Her 21st birthday when I held her hair back all night. My dad's funeral, where she didn't leave my side for 3 days straight, bringing me food I didn't eat and making sure I showered. At the very end, there was a new picture. One I'd never seen before. It was from that night, 6 months ago. Me. Standing on her porch, holding the sunflowers, looking through her window. She must have taken it from inside before she came out. Before I saw her in Eli's hoodie, I looked so hopeful, so nervous, so in love. The sunflowers were a bright, aching yellow against the twilight. Underneath, she'd written in her loopy, familiar handwriting, "The moment I made the biggest mistake of my life." I closed the album. My hands were shaking. This was manipulation. A calculated, heartbreakingly effective piece of emotional blackmail. She'd made her choice. Now she had to live with it. But the image of my own hopeful face, seconds before my life shattered, stayed with me all day. I spent the rest of the weekend ignoring my phone. By Monday, the texts had stopped. I went to work, trying to force myself back into my new normal life. Willie gave me a new project. The routine was comforting. On Wednesday, I ran into Angela at the grocery store. She pretended to be surprised, but I knew better. This was Jules's favorite store, even though it was miles from her apartment. Angela was on a mission. "How are you, Marcus?" she asked, blocking the cereal aisle with her cart. "Fine, Angela." I tried to move past her. "Jules is a mess," she said bluntly. "She's barely eating. Barely sleeping." I sighed, gripping the handle of my cart. "That's not my problem anymore." "She made a mistake, a big one," Angela crossed her arms. "But she loves you. I've known Jules for years, and I've never seen her like this. She's broken. She has a funny way of showing it. Look, I'm not defending what she did. It was messed up. But just talk to her. Really talk." I grabbed a random box of cereal. "I'll think about it." I didn't think about it. I tried not to. But that night, I found myself looking at the photo album again. I missed her. Not just the idea of her. I missed my friend. The next day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but it was a local area code, and something made me pick up. "Hello? Is this Marcus?" A woman's voice, professional and slightly rushed. "Yes. Who's this?" "This is Beverly from Memorial Hospital. You're listed as Jules Parker's emergency contact." My heart didn't just drop. It evaporated. A cold, electric fear washed over me. What happened? Is she okay?" "She was in a car accident, sir. Nothing life-threatening, but she's disoriented. She's asking for you. I didn't even think." I was already grabbing my keys. "I'll be right there." All the anger, all the hurt, all the 6 months of betrayal, it was still there. But suddenly it didn't matter. Jules was hurt, and she needed me. That was all I needed to know. I drove to the hospital in a daze, running at least one red light and barely noticing. The hospital parking lot was crowded, and I had to circle twice before finding a spot in a distant garage. I ran through the automatic doors, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. When I got to her room, she was sitting up in bed, looking pale but alert. She had a stitched-up cut on her forehead, a dark purple bruise blooming on her cheek, and her right arm was in a sling. The sterile hospital gown was too big for her, making her look small and fragile. "You came?" she said, her voice small and hoarse. She sounded surprised. "Of course I came." I stayed by the door, my feet suddenly rooted to the floor. The room smelled of antiseptic and the faint chemical scent of floor wax. I didn't know if I should come closer. I didn't think you would. After everything. She looked down at her hands, one of which had an IV taped to the back of it. I moved to the plastic visitor's chair beside her bed. The vinyl squeaked loudly as I sat down. What happened? Some idiot ran a red light. T-boned my car. She tried to smile, but it looked more like a grimace. My poor Civic didn't make it. But I'll live. Concussion, dislocated shoulder, some cuts and bruises. She looked at me directly, her eyes clearer than they had been at the cafe. I'm sorry they called you. I never updated my emergency contacts. It's fine. I shifted uncomfortably. Is there someone else I should call? Your mom, Angela? Mom's in Florida. She shook her head, wincing at the slight movement. Angela's coming later. She's the one who's been trying to get me to eat. She hesitated, picking at the edge of her thin hospital blanket. Eli stopped by earlier. I tensed, my jaw clenching involuntarily. Oh, I didn't ask him to, she said, eager to clarify. He heard from Angela. He cried. It was weird. We sat in an awkward silence. A nurse came in, checked her vitals with a cheerful efficiency that felt alien, and left us alone again. Thank you for coming, Marcus, she finally said. I know you hate me right now. I don't hate you, Jules. I sighed, the admission feeling like a weight lifting off my chest. I'm so angry, and I'm hurt. But I don't hate you. She nodded, a single tear slipping down her unbruised cheek. I got your flowers, by the way, she whispered. The sunflowers. That night, I froze. What? After you left? After Eli left. I found them on the porch. She looked away toward the window where the afternoon light was streaming in. I knew they were from you. They were so bright, but you texted me. You said he loved them. The memory still stung, a sharp, specific pain. She winced, closing her eyes. I know, I panicked. I was inside with Eli, and I was so confused. He's kissed me, and I was scared. And then I got your text about being home, and I saw the flowers, and I didn't know what to say. I thought you knew I was with him and were just being nice, being a friend. I was trying to pretend it was all normal. Being nice. I stood up, the chair scraping loudly. Jules, I was on your porch. I saw you. I was there to tell you I loved you. I know that now, she cried, wincing as the sudden movement pulled at her shoulder. I didn't then. Not until later. Not until Eli finally told me. I paced the small hospital room, running my hands through my hair. This is insane. This whole situation is insane. I know, she sobbed, tears streaming down her face now. I messed everything up, Marcus. I was so scared of losing you as a friend that I pushed you away. How stupid is that? I stopped pacing and turned to face her. Of all people, Jules, why him? Why my brother? She looked miserable, her shoulders hunched. He was there. And he was safe, he wasn't you. What does that even mean? I still couldn't understand the logic. It means I was terrified of ruining what we had. She was almost shouting now. You were my best friend. The most important person in my life. What if we tried and it didn't work out? I'd lose everything. Eli, he wasn't everything. He was just easy. So instead you chose my brother, guaranteeing you'd lose me anyway, I said, the bewilderment total. That makes no sense. I know it doesn't. I wasn't thinking clearly, and she wiped at her tears with her good hand. He told me you'd never make a move. He said you were happy with things the way they were. He said I'd just make things weird and destroy our friendship, and that you'd be miserable. He said he was protecting you. The pieces didn't just fall into place. They slammed into place. He had manipulated both of us. He'd used my own hesitation against me and her fear against her. And then it was too late, she whispered. You found out. You blocked me. And I was stuck in this relationship I never even wanted. I tried to break up with him, Marcus, so many times. But he'd always talk about how it would ruin his relationship with you forever. How you'd never forgive him? He made me feel so guilty. He knew exactly what to say to make me stay. I sat back down, the anger at her dissolving, reforming and redirecting itself squarely at Eli. All this time I thought they had chosen each other. But they hadn't. He had orchestrated the whole thing. She reached for my hand, and this time I let her take it. Her fingers were cold. I'm so sorry, Marcus. For everything. For not being brave enough. For listening to him instead of my own heart. I'm so sorry. I looked at our hands. It felt right, even after everything. This is a lot to process, Jules. She nodded, squeezing my hand. I know, I understand. I stood up, reluctantly letting go. I should go. Let you rest. Will you come back? She asked, her voice so small, so vulnerable. I looked at her. The girl I'd loved since 7th grade. Sitting in a hospital bed, bruised and broken because of a mess we'd all made. Yeah, I said, my voice thick. I'll come back. I visited her in the hospital for the next 2 days. We just talked. About work, about friends, about the terrible hospital food. It was almost like old times, just with a giant wounded elephant in the room. She was released on Saturday. Angela picked her up, but Jules asked if I could come over that night. We need to really talk, she'd texted. I spent the day cleaning my apartment, a nervous habit. When I got to her place, Angela let me in and then conveniently remembered she had plans. Jules was on the couch, her arm still in the sling, but the bruises were fading. The photo album was on her coffee table. I have something for you, she said, reaching behind a cushion with her good arm. She pulled out a small, worn envelope. I found this. The original, the one I wrote for you that night. I took it from her. It was the note. Not the short one I'd found, but a full letter. Marcus, it began. I've rewritten this a dozen times. I'm just going to say it. I'm in love with you. I have been for years. You're my best friend, but you're also so much more. I'm scared, but I'm ready if you are. Love, Jules. I looked up from the letter, my heart pounding. You were going to give this to me, she nodded, tears in her eyes. I was that night. I had it all planned. And then Eli showed up and he just talked me out of it. He convinced me I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. I carefully folded the letter and put it in my pocket. Can I keep this? Of course, she smiled. I sat down on the couch next to her, not across the room. So what happens now? She looked at me, her gaze steady. I'm terrified. But I'm more scared of losing you forever, if you're still willing. I leaned in and kissed her. Not on the cheek. A real kiss. It was 6 months too late, but it felt like coming home. She froze for a second, then kissed me back, her good hand coming up to rest on my shoulder. When we pulled apart, we were both smiling like idiots. I've wanted to do that since I was 13, I admitted. Me too, she laughed, her eyes bright. We spent the rest of the night talking, finally, honestly. We never did watch the movie she'd put on, that was 6 months ago. Jules and I are officially together. It's not perfect. It's weird sometimes. But it's real. Eli and we're not okay. I saw him at Thanksgiving. He tried to apologize. He said he'd been jealous of me his whole life, jealous that I had something as real as my friendship with Jules. He wanted to win for once. I told him I'd need time. A lot of time? He's still my brother, but the trust is gone. Maybe one day it'll come back. Last week, Jules and I went back to that Thai restaurant, our old spot, for our 6-month anniversary, as she called it. I had a whole speech planned, but when we sat down, she pulled out a small box. Inside was a key. Her apartment key on a new chain. Attached to it was a tiny, perfect silver sunflower charm. Move in with me, she said. I'm tired of going back and forth. I want to wake up with you every morning. I didn't even have to think about it. Yes, I'm moving my stuff in next weekend. Her place is bigger anyway. It's funny. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be here, I would have laughed. But sometimes the longest, most painful roads lead you exactly where you were supposed to be all along.